Alright, to begin the day, we are in section A5 of Woodmere Cemetery, located in southwest Detroit. We are coming up to the gravesite of James Scripps, born in 1835 and dying in 1906. He was a state senator at one time. He was also born in London, England. He was the founder of the Detroit Evening News, also known as the Detroit News newspaper. He was the vice president of the Detroit Art Museum, also known as the Detroit Institute of Arts, I believe. He attended college in Chicago because when his family moved here from England, I guess they settled in Chicago for a while, and that's pretty much where they grew up. And James eventually moved to Detroit after being laid off from a reporting job at one of the Chicago newspapers. Let's see here. He was a reporter for the Detroit Advertiser newspaper, eventually becoming its editor. Let's see. Later, after becoming editor, he bought out the Detroit Tribune and combined the Detroit Tribune with the Detroit Advertiser. He had various media interests in various other metropolitan cities throughout the United States. And the thing about the Scripps family is that as of today, or as of recently, they own various news stations. They own various news stations in the United States, newspapers, and other media outlets, I guess, and they are pretty much a major conglomerate in the media empire in the United States. So here's his mausoleum. It's a really interesting one. There's a couple of, looks like gargoyles or something on the edge of each corner of the front of the mausoleum. So here he is, and the interesting thing about this mausoleum is that there are no crypts, and each person who's buried inside this magnificent mausoleum are buried underneath the floor, in the inside. So there's pretty much no crypts on the walls, I believe, and everyone's pretty much buried in the floor. Alright, and over here in section A5, lot, see here, 1156, is the gravesite of Ellen W. Hudson. He was a prominent Detroit ship owner back in the 1800s or early 1800s. He was born in 1817 and died in 1901. He donated land. Hang on a minute. He donated land on West 4th Street for the church congregation Grace Episcopal Church. Let's see here. And also worth mentioning, in the same area here is William Duval, who was born in I'm not sure when he was born, but he died in 1882, and he's somewhere in this area right here. Not much is known about William Duval, but he was an abolitionist during the 1800s, probably during the Civil War and all that. We are in section A1, lot 747, coming up to the gravesite of one Seymour Finney. He was an alderman in Detroit during the 1800s, and he built the barn that was used in the Underground Railroad after the Civil War and pretty much during the Civil War. Here's his gravesite. As you can see, the different climates and the weather here in Michigan have somewhat deteriorated the monument or the marker, because you can barely see the name Seymour Finney on there. But it is shown nonetheless, and it appears that he's buried here with several relatives of his. Looks like he has a son here, 2 wives, on both sides of him, right there and right there. Actually, yeah, right there. And looks like a daughter and a few other relatives. So this is pretty much all the information I have on him, is that he built the barn that was used during the Underground Railroad time period. So, and that is it. Section B, lot 9. Coming up to the gravesite of the Bacon family. The person we're looking for right now is Irving Reuben Bacon, who is listed right there on the far left. He was born in 1875 and dying in 1962. He was a Detroit newspaper cartoonist back in the 1960s or 50s or whatever. He was also the private cartoonist for one Henry Ford of the Ford Motor Company. And finally, he was the founder of the Detroit Adcraft Club. I have no idea what that is, but whatever it is, he was the founder of it. Alright, and over here in Section B, lot 244, is the gravesite of George C. Langdon. Born in 1833 and dying in 1909, he was the mayor of Detroit between the years 1878 and 1879. Now, I really don't have much else information on him, but one thing I would like to mention, here's his marker in the ground. What you just saw previously a moment ago was his monument. Now, one thing I would like to mention about Mayor Langdon is that a month before he died, Mayor Mayberry died a month ahead of him. And the thing between the two funerals is that Mayor Mayberry had quite a good number of mourners at his funeral, while Mayor Langdon only had not even a dozen mourners. So with me telling you that, you can tell that Mayor Langdon was either not very popular or didn't really have a lot of friends. So here he is in Section B.